So tonight you're in for a real treat. Rob Kapelau is paired with the Griffin Trio in a collaboration on concepts of leadership, team dynamics, innovation, and creativity. Rob, a music innovator and commentator, has been described as kind of a Bill Nye the Science Guy for classical music by media sources from around the world. Rob has brought the joy and wonder of classical music to audiences of all ages and all backgrounds. Characterized by his unique ability to create an aha moment for his audiences, whatever their level of music sophistication, Rob's work brings music into people's lives, opening new ears to musical experiences and helping people to listen actively rather than just hear. In addition to that, I think it's an exceptional piece of news to let everyone know that Rob will also be conducting 9 performances at the TSO this week. So I'll let him elaborate more on that. Now, oh, sure, yeah, okay.
You haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, hold the applause until you see what's going on here. Now, the Griffin Trio is a Toronto-based, internationally renowned classical music ensemble who tonight will conjure a conversation of sound, essentially a dialogue between their instruments. They are widely recognized for actively commissioning new works by Canadians as well as international contemporary composers. This Juno Award-winning trio is comprised of violinist Annalie Padapakun, cellist Roman Boris, and pianist Jamie Parker, who are all artists in residence at the University of Toronto and tour Canada and the world tirelessly. Through entertaining, revealing, interactive exercise, Rob and the trio tonight will try to get a feeling for that kind of listening that makes playing together possible in any collaboration, affecting our approach to every idea, proposal, meeting, and negotiation. This promises to be a valuable lesson, not only for the clients that we serve at MaRS, who are early stage entrepreneurs, but take away a lot of things tonight that will help you improve your collaboration and listening and all the work that you do. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rob Kapelau.
Thanks. Thanks. I'm so glad that you're all here, since I'm sure that you don't have the faintest idea what you're actually here for. But I'm curious to know, who are you? How many of you actually work at MaRS? How many are working on given collaborative projects right now at MaRS? Several of you. Okay, good. So who are the rest of you? Are the rest of you just from the community? Just from the community, yes? How many of the rest of you are musicians? Just raise your hand. By the way, I can see the one. It's not a complicated, am I really a musician? No, I just mean, we'll take anything. How many of you are musicians? Okay, more hands go up, good. How many of you never played an instrument in your life? Okay, good, good. And I want honesty here. How many of you would you call yourself classical music fans? Big fan. Right, you go to concerts, you buy CDs, very good. How many wouldn't call yourself exactly fans? You wouldn't commit one of those pre-programmable radio car buttons to a classical station, but you listen to it occasionally. You like it occasionally. Okay, good. And who was dragged here by someone who told them it would be good for them? Yes, I don't know what it is about classical music. There's always somebody. You're my favorite audience, by the way. Thank you for coming. Welcome, welcome. So let me explain what this is all about. First of all, we are so happy to be here, and I'm so surprised that you actually think we'd have something to offer you. I mean, if we were to look at the respective pay scales of people in the music community and those in the scientific community, we would end the program right now. However, the idea that actually musicians might have anything to offer the business world in any way actually wasn't mine. I was conducting a concert at Lincoln Center in New York, and afterwards, a professor from the Fordham Business School came up to me, and he said, "Hi, I really enjoyed the concert. Would you like to come to my management seminar and do a talk?" And I just was completely flabbergasted. I mean, I barely read the business section of the Times. In fact, now that sports is part of it, though, I have to wade my way through the business section. And I said, I'd be happy to do it, but what could I possibly do for you? And he says, well, you know, conducting is leadership role, and why don't you talk about different management models? And so he said, how about conducting as a management model? And I mean, I just never thought I would ever be any building where somebody was talking about conducting as a management model. But it was really interesting. Put together the program. Don't really remember anything that happened at a program except the title. But I do remember that the issues were really fascinating. Anyway, after that, I got more and more involved with music and groups like that, and particularly at Stanford. Do you all know the St. Lawrence Quartet at all? They're another Canadian quartet. Well, they're in residence at Stanford, and the business school there was very interested in doing these interdisciplinary programs. And so I created a program on negotiation for them. for the mediators. There's a whole big mediation program there. I guess that's very big in the States. I'm not sure if it's big in Canada. But mediating was very big. So we did a program with the mediators who were teaching there. And then we did a program on leadership. In any case, these issues kept coming up. And to really be honest, I mean, it's an issue, this whole issue of leadership and collaboration, that has really fascinated me. So when I called and talked to the MaRS people, and the first words that came out of their mouth were collaboration and innovation, I thought, there must be some way that we could do this. And interestingly enough, everything I do, since I'm just one person, is a collaborative event in its own way. I mean, here I am at the TSO this week, and I am collaborating as the conductor of this concert, of course, with the entire orchestra and with the audience, but the actual piece that I'm here for is a world premiere of my new tap dance concerto. And I wrote this piece in collaboration with this wonderful woman tap dancer who knew nothing about music, never read music, had never been to a symphony concert, and that was its own kind of unique collaboration with an outsider, which I really want to talk about a lot at the end. But these issues of collaboration come up every day. And to be really honest, over the last 15 years of my life, every event that I've done has had a different kind of collaboration. And there are in particular two kinds, of which the Griffin Ensemble is one excellent example, that have really brought me here to tonight. I've been very fortunate over these last 15 years to conduct really some of North America's greatest orchestras. The New York Philharmonic, Chicago Symphony, Philadelphia Orchestra, Toronto Symphony, and had a lot of interesting experiences with the dynamics of the collaboration with them. Think sort of large corporate in the worst sense. So you're collaborating with, wonderful organizations, but think a large corporate collaboration. But I've also spent a good chunk of my time with groups like the Griffin Trio. Think small, leaderless team. And just comparing the kinds of collaborative experiences, the way you collaborate with an orchestra versus the way you collaborate, me with them, but most importantly for tonight, them with each other, has made me really believe that a world-class chamber ensemble like the Griffin Trio is about the most perfect model of a leaderless team collaborating that you could possibly have. Now, what I want to do tonight is give you a sense of what that is, but it's really not that interesting to talk about compared to how interesting it is to do. So there's going to be a lot of doing for you tonight. It's really not important if you know anything about music. You'll probably do most of it really badly, but what could be better experience in the business world than humiliating yourself in front of a large group of your peers? So there'll be a lot of doing, but the good news is I'll ease you into the doing, and the first stuff will be really easy. But by the end, we want to do a collaborative project where we perform a piece together with you, because the whole goal is to give you a feeling of what this is all about. Now, before we do our first little music thing, I just want to ask you a question. How many of you are involved in collaborative projects currently? Raise your hand. Okay, now, the people who are not, raise your hand. Okay, do you have families? Have you gone out to dinner with anyone recently? One of the things that I think is really important for today to realize, no matter where you're sitting, everybody is a collaborator. That's step one. Everyone collaborates on some project. Now, I found an interesting definition of collaboration, because you can't do a program like this without defining collaboration. A process where two or more people or organizations work together to accomplish a common goal. So anytime you or your family go to a movie, anyone is involved in a collaboration at some point. So first of all, that means this is a program for everyone. Now, I would suggest this to you. You don't have to do this, but I find that programs like this are much more valuable if you put something at stake for yourself. So here's just a suggestion. You don't have to do it. Think of something or some collaboration you're involved in that's problematic, and decide that somehow tonight the program will help you solve that difficulty in your collaboration. Now, you don't have to do it, but I find it actually makes you listen in a different way from the perspective of, is anyone bold enough to try to tell me about some problem of collaboration that they would like to put at stake for tonight's program? Anyone having a collaborative difficulty at this point? Can be with teenager, business partner, anything we like. Anyone have an example of something? Yeah, sure.
A board of directors where everybody has a completely different personality.
I'm going to repeat what he said. He's dealing with a board of directors where everybody has a completely different personality. Now, interestingly, why is that a problem? Now, I don't ask that as stupidly as I might sound. Some of the best chamber groups actually thrive on being completely different. And in fact, they often can't bear to talk to each other anywhere outside the concert. But on stage, the very tension of the different personalities is what actually makes them we have this notion that it should be a harmonious collaboration is the only one. I want to disavow you of that notion right away, that only a harmonious collaboration. But tell me more. I like this. You don't have to say the name. Go ahead.
They are so different that I don't think they have the maximum respect for each other in order to really collaborate well.
Boy, I mean, I could have planted this. This is so fantastic. He says they're so different that he feels that they don't have the necessary respect for each other in order to collaborate. But this is going to lead so perfectly into this problem. So let's, and you're part of this as well. Okay, so the real problem is generating a kind of respect for each other. So that's your topic. I'm going to see if we can somehow help you. Are that them calling? Okay. They heard, they're checking. They've got a speaker on his phone and they're hearing every word. The stock is going down as we speak. That is, by the way, this is fantastic and incredibly helpful to the program. Is there anyone else who has some difficulty of collaboration that they would, yes, go ahead, sure.
I started a campus group at Ryerson University for women in information technology management. We're in our 3rd year and we're having a severe challenge with motivation, teamwork, collaboration. So I brought up this event to the team and everybody seemed psyched to come out, and now I'm the only person here.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's interesting. Now, that's really interesting. You know, that's a really interesting. And this is such a good idea to ask you people to do this. And I never did this before. They didn't come here. No, the traditional thing we do when they didn't come is they're wrong. When that happens for me, when people don't show up, what I say is, what is it that I was unable to get across? How was I unable to get what this event was about to make it come alive for them? I always feel if people don't come, it was my fault in that I wasn't able to get it across. So, I mean, I get the problem here, but I often think whenever you have a thing where people don't show up, look for yourself and see what is it that I didn't understand enough, or why did I not get them convinced? Now, could it be that they resented that you suggested it?
No, I don't think it's that at all. I think more or less we're looking at dealing with students, and as a student, your first priority is class or school or your education. So I do think that in some part, you know, they could have made arrangements or so, but definitely on the way here, I was thinking about it and I thought, if there could have been something else that I could have done maybe to motivate them or encourage them to come out to this, because as I mentioned, one of the major challenges the group has been having is motivation from the get-go. So it's definitely something I've considered.
Great. You know, one of the themes I'm going to talk about a lot, and it will be a perfect example here, is the world of me versus the world of we. One of the keys to successful collaboration is getting outside of the world of me into the possibilities of the world of we, which is so key to what a trio does. But I'm going to talk about that, and that's what they yet haven't seen, is that world. This is great. Maybe just one more and then we'll get started. These are so helpful. Anyone have one more collaborative difficulty I'm missing? Oh, right here. Oh, good. Give him a microphone. Good.
Well, actually, I think it's similar to her case scenario. My boss supposed to be here. It's a law firm.
Your boss was supposed to be here in a law firm.
Yes, and he simply said, okay, go ahead and come back and report to me.
And report to me. Ah, yes. Report to me. Memo.
And I conceive that he has been capitalizing on dysfunctionality of the office, whereby you simply cannot do anything at all. Whenever everything happens to be dysfunctional, everyone remains in each corner, it's better for him. It's like a pure cacophonic kind of scenario there. I wish that he would be here to see what can be achieved when people put themselves together in fraternity to get something done.
Great. Well, my suggestion to you is to see if some way you could take what happened here and bring it back to him so that he could see that, even though you wished he had been here. So we're going to see that. Now, by the way, again, anyone feel free not to do it, but I do think it would be fun if you just thought of where is there a difficulty in your collaboration and tried to listen to tonight's program from that stance. How could I solve it? And then report to me in the Q&A at the end if anything came to you. Because in the end, really, you're the ones who are doing the program, not me. All right, that being said, I want to just get started. And before we look into it, as I say, the basic premise of tonight is that these are masters of collaboration, and that looking at how they actually collaborate and having you try that will open up, hopefully, some new ideas about how you actually get at this collaboration. But before we pick collaboration apart, I thought you should get a chance to just sit back, relax, and for the last time tonight, enjoy yourself. And before we take apart the whole process, just listen to them at their best. But don't just listen to them as great music, though you should do that as well. But think of this as a true model of collaboration, the pure leaderless team at its best. Enjoy, they're playing first movement, Mendelssohn, C minor trio, and then we will start taking it all apart. Notice step one, they have to enter on the same page. They join worlds. They agree or don't agree on what is A.
So one argument, I always win.
And always is smug about the whole thing, too. He sits there. Thank you all for coming. Need I say more? Very good. All right. Now, we're going to get started. And I want to start on a kind of general note. We're going to play just a little short example for you, another Mendelssohn example. And I want to not be too specific, but I want you to listen to it this time from a point of view. How do they collaborate? How do they get along? What are they doing well? What keeps them together? Is there a leader in their collaboration? Just watch. I want to keep the agenda slightly vague. Here's a little excerpt, and then we'll ask you your opinions. Together. How do they get louder and softer? Okay, first of all, is there a leader? And yes, who? I'd argue the pianist, actually. You'd argue that the pianist is the leader? I'm sure he's very happy to hear that. Is that just because he has the biggest instrument? No. No. What makes you say that he's the leader?
Well, it's interesting. There's traditional and non-traditional roles, and I'm contrasting this to larger orchestra versus small.
Right. Are you a musician, clearly?
Former.
Yes, okay. Oh, don't tell us the story, but I'm sure it's a sad one. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'd say frustrating.
You made the right choice. You made the right choice. Don't worry.
Divergent paths.
Go ahead.
And the reason I say piano is, and sort of thinking this through in my mind, there's traditional roles and non-traditional roles, and I think what it appears to me is that there's been adoption of non-traditional roles in order to move beyond, but there's an acknowledgement that someone has to be an anchor.
Someone has to be an anchor.
And I remember being taught very young, always maintain constant eye contact with the conductor.
Always maintain constant eye contact with
the conductor. Or not constant, like
excellent young training.
Right?
Excellent training. Yes. Even not when you're playing music, just always maintain eye contact.
Yes, Professor.
Good.
So there's that piece. It somehow moves into the three of them. So your question, the first one is, who's the leader? So I think there's elements of leadership being transferred depending on where the themes are moving back and forth or between the instruments. But ultimately, what I first listened to and then looked for the body language visual cues was that the two string instruments were doing a lot of back and forth with each other for visual cues. But they're married. They were the there you go. But definitely, see, piano is usually accompaniment. There's definitely a lot of leadership there, not just accompaniment, in what I saw anyway. But less visual, less of a visual back and forth. So there was more, the two of you looking at each other, two of you looking at the pianist, but less of the pianist looking out. So that to me also implied that there was some leadership there.
Great, fantastic. Now, how many people agree and think the piano's the leader? Okay, how many people think the violin's the leader? Oh God, she gets no. Oh, a few votes over there. And how many think the cello's the leader? How many think there is no leader? Oh, that's interesting. How many think all of them are leaders? Oh, these are interesting. We're going to explore this. Okay, so now, how do they stay together?
The score.
No, wait, the score. Okay, let me hold this up. I don't see this keeping anybody together. How do they stay together? Is it vision? Now, he talked a lot about visual cues. You think they stay together by visual cues? Is that what you think keeps them together? Practice keeps them together. That's just avoiding the S. That's just avoiding the question. What do you think keeps them together? Listening. Yeah, that's right. In fact, do you know that part by memory? This opening by memory? Count off somebody and then close your eyes. Let's see if they can play together. Just count off and then just to get started. Close your eyes. So I guess it's not the gestures. But what was interesting, even with their eyes closed, they still move, right? They still move, because it's part of the music making. Now, but somebody said something, and this is one of the really most important things, and you said it very casually, it's listening that keeps them together. In spite of the fact that there's enormous eye contact, and even in an orchestra, everybody thinks it's this baton, but the real truth is what keeps an orchestra together is not the conductor, I have to say this, although I'm very happy with the paycheck, but it's not the conductor. It's actually nothing I do, and it's not the baton, it's listening. It's really interesting. I've been very fortunate to conduct some of the best orchestras and some of the worst orchestras. And you tend to think think that the difference between a great orchestra and a bad orchestra is that in a bad orchestra, they're worse players. But it's not true. Actually, what makes a great orchestra is that they're great listeners. You know, when you conduct an orchestra like the Philadelphia Orchestra, the last stand bass player is listening to what the first violin is doing, and the slightest adjustment in sound over here is registered. And there's a kind of eager listening. They're the ones who actually make the orchestra play together, and it's superb listening on their part that makes those orchestras great. That's, by the way, really important. In any kind of collaboration, listening is a theme I'm going to come back to, because we think of it as a kind of ordinary thing, but real listening is one of the rarest phenomenons. And I'm going to talk particularly at the end about the kind of listening that I think is at the heart of all great collaborations. But even on the simplest level, it's not visuals that keeps them together. It's listening that keeps them together. All right, now I want to do a series of 6 demonstrations. I want to start easy before you actually have to do something hard yourself. And I want you to get the right answers for early on, so you'll feel very good about yourself. Now, we're going to do a series of 3 demonstrations, and I'm just going to ask you a simple question. In each of these passages, who is the leader? Here's the first one. Who's the leader? Cello, very good, no problem. Okay, great, excellently. In this second one, who is the leader? It's more beautiful the second time. Who's the leader? The violin. Okay, and who do you think, this is MaRS Institute after all, who do you think is the leader on the third example? All right, here we go. You have to have it. Go ahead. And who's the leader there? Piano. All right, now that's what you think. Let's go back now. Let's go back to that very first example and start to look a little bit closer. You know, there's a lot of interesting discussion here, but what goes wrong in collaborations? One of the things that often goes wrong, and this was interesting with your comment about the board, is what I call the misunderstanding of roles. So, for example, let's just say that the piano decides that in spite of the fact that all of you said that the cello leads in this first example, he's the one who leads. Then it might sound like this. Now, we have all had collaborations like that, where everyone decides really the only reason to have this collaboration is so that I can be the spokesperson in front of the television cameras, and I don't care whether my role is the accompanist or not, I am going to be the center. Misunderstanding of roles is very common. Now, another problem that comes up also in these collaborations is not misunderstanding of roles. There could be an agreement on who's leader, who's not leader, but you can literally have different disagreements over what the content is. For example, say that Roman decides that this really should be played quite fast and flowingly. Demonstrate by yourself. Fast, your tempo in your mind. But let's say Jamie decides it should be very methodical and plotty. Each step of Mendelssohn slower than the one before, like this. And then they try to put the 2 versions together here as a collaboration. And we've all been there. All right. Now, let's take a look closer at that Mendelssohn one where you said the violin was leading. One thing that's really important is that for someone to lead, and this sounds so simple, the followers must be willing to have them lead. In other words, you can only lead if the people working with you actually wish the best for you. And no matter how beautifully she plays, it's the environment that the rest of the collaborators create that actually allows her to be beautiful. Listen very closely. There are actually 3 different levels of music going on. I want you to tell me, in this collaboration, who would get the private jet, who would fly first class, and who's in economy paying for their own checked luggage. So here are the 3 roles. Who's the most important? Now who's the second important? And who's the third important? And hold for a minute. So she's the most important. Who's second important? Cello. He's got a singing line as well. Who's the least important? the piano. But all of them must work together to create the environment. Now listen how in a great collaboration, each of them conspire to make her absolutely exquisitely beautiful. Let's focus on the accompanying parts, not her melody. Here we go, from the beginning again. Now watch here. They sweep together. See that moment? Now we push. They have to crescendo together to this moment. Now all of a sudden, listen to the piano's left hand. It's what pushes the line forward. Now she finishes, he takes over. Now watch the moment at the end, this exquisite moment right here. If you could bottle that moment, that is what collaboration is. That moment, at that moment, who was leading on that last aha moment? No one was leading, everyone was leading. All three were doing it. And notice the way they look at each other. Everyone is combined to make that moment exquisite. There is no world of me at that moment. There is only a world of me, of we. Could you just play that last measure one more time? Watch here. If you have one of those cameras that has a snapshot moment, that is the moment to pick because that is the essence of pure collaboration. And at that moment, you have to give up any idea of how fast is it, how slow, here's my tempo, it should resolve like this, here's how loud we should play. At that moment, all three have to come together and create something together that neither of them could do alone. Now, question for all of you, sounds very simple. Why do you collaborate? Why should you form a trio? Why should MaRS exist? And what is the point of having a collaboration? Say again. You can't do it on your own. Now, by the way, that sounds really, what can't you do on your own? Create something. Now, first of all, that is a truly enormous step to take. One of the things that's really surprising is that in key collaborations, you have to actually, this sounds so obvious, you have to actually want to collaborate. Yes. Yes, that's right. I mean, like, in fact, it's possible that your group, they don't actually want to collaborate. Very often people are forced into collaborations, and there's nothing that does a collaboration in more than someone who resents actually collaborating, who thinks that they actually can do it on their own. There is a kind of key humility step necessary when you form a collaboration, which truly acknowledges that I can't do it on my own. That is a really, really important step. You know, there's a wonderful book, actually there's a terrible book, but a great title, called The Wisdom of Crowds. I don't know if you've read that book by James Surowiecki, but the idea is that there is a wisdom that a group has, which is what this trio is all about. There is a wisdom that a group has that no individual can have by themselves. But in order to gain access to the wisdom of the group, you have to renounce pure self. You have to actually allow that. There's a wonderful description in that of the Challenger space shuttle disaster. And the interesting thing was there were many people at NASA who knew there was going to be a problem. But what they did was they created a control group who was running the experiment that wanted no one with an outside opinion as part of the decision-making process. So they kept narrowing who they would allow in the room, refusing to allow the wisdom of crowds to enter. And so all of a sudden there was this disaster even though people knew. I did a whole interesting project at the Stanford Medical School with nurses there. And they say one of the real dangers in all hospital operating rooms is there's such a hierarchy of order, of importance, that the surgeon is so at the king that even though the nurse might have the absolute key information necessary to sustain the life of the patient, because she's so low on the hierarchy and the collaboration, people do not listen, people do not actually hear her. So I think one of the things that makes a collaboration is a willingness, first of all, to be in it, the humility to know that you cannot do it on your own, and also the willingness to believe that any person in the room can have the next best idea, which is the one that you need to hear. Doesn't matter who it is, it could be the secretary, it could be the corporate VP, but in a true collaboration, any one of them at that moment can have the idea, and everyone has to give up themselves in order to do it. All right, let's move on a little bit. Let's look at the next one. Now, again, one of the things that's really interesting is you can think that in a team, certain people are more important than others. But one thing I want to demonstrate beautifully musically is that there's no person or no job so small that it cannot completely ruin a team. So, in this next excerpt, what they have is nothing more than one note. All the melody is in the piano. Would you just, Jamie, play your piano part for yourself, for them? This is all that's interesting. And their brilliant part is this. Nothing but a single note. But watch how they can completely destroy the entire collaboration for Jamie by the way they play this. Any of you ever been in a collaboration where there was someone in the room like that? I mean, it is amazing that there is no person too small who cannot destroy a team. However, the other side is completely true as well. The smallest person on the team can create incredible beauty. Watch when they now play just that same single note. It's really just one note, but now they pluck it and they play it with shape, and suddenly the entire passage comes alive. Now, Jamie hasn't actually changed. The chairman of the board is still the chairman of the board, but everybody in the stockholder community, in your particular case, actually is now making him be the star. Listen to how beautifully they make him sound. I mean, fantastic stuff. All right, now let's make this really interesting. We're going to play the beginning of the Ghost Trio. It was pretty clear in all these cases who was fundamentally leading. Now, we looked at the other roles and we saw that they were important roles, but they were still clearly accompanying roles. Here's a question for you. In this opening, who's leading? All right, what's the problem? They're all playing the same note. Everyone's playing the same notes, so who's leading? Togetherness is leading. First of all, how do they start? Who starts them? Together. Now, who's leading when they're all playing the same thing? Obviously, they're all leading, and in a way, they're all following. But one of the other things that's really important, and you said it, I cannot do it alone. One of the things is why we form collaborations is because we can't do it alone. Let's listen to each of these lines by themselves. I mean, one thing that's so interesting and basic is without a trio, you don't have a trio. If she were to just play her part by herself, it's not bad, it's okay, it's wonderful, it's a world, but now as we add the cello, even though the notes are the same, the universe starts to expand. But now as we add those same notes in the piano, only now do we truly become ready for market. Got it? Okay, now, let's start looking at some more sophisticated passages of changing leadership, and then we're going to turn it over to you to actually do it. So enjoy your last moment of respite. Now, in this passage, we're going to see leadership change. I want you to tell me, raise your hand quickly when you see the leader change, and just sort of shout out quietly, who's leading? In other words, shout out while still hearing. Go ahead. But with pride. Who's leading? Okay. Raise your hand when it changes. Fine. Yeah. Now we're going to do a really sophisticated one. The changes of leadership happen at breakneck pace. First time through, we're going to stop at each change so you can actually prepare your ear for it. Then we're going to play it through at speed, and I want you to really just get how fast it changes. So first we're going to stop at each change so you can get it in your ear. This is the same Ghost Trio where they all start together like this. Cello, piano. So let's just do that one more time, and I want you to hear that fast change when all of a sudden they stop, cello stays on, he's there for a second, but then the piano comes in and this wonderful three-screen effect. Listen to that phrase one more time. Cool, right? Okay, now, what happens next? Who plays next? Now the leadership goes to the cello. But then a minute later, to the violin. Then the two of them. Then to the piano. They start their own melody. And they end together. Now we're going to play that back at real time, and I want you to just hear those constant changes. This is what a real collaboration is like. You're in the room, and everybody, this is the one you want to be part of. Everybody has an idea. We have an idea. You have an idea. The two go off in the side room, and they come up with their own idea. They bring it back to the group. Everyone plays together. This is what perfect collaboration looks like. Do it one more time. We're all together in the room. I've got an idea. I agree. How about this? I think I'll take it and run with it. Wait, together, let's do it, yeah. But wait, I can contribute this. We'll have our side discussion over here. We put the project together. Publish the results. Okay, now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. We're going to play that opening one more time, and I'm going to teach it to you, and you're going to have to clap it. Okay, so listen to it once, and then we'll learn it, and it's yours. Go ahead. All right, so let's learn. The rhythm goes like this. It starts off with a bum-ba-da-dum. Let's do that much. Ready, go. Bum-ba-da-dum. It's very important to get those 2/16ths together. Ready, and yum-ba-ba-bum. It hurts, but it's worth it. Okay. Then you're going to do 4-note groups 4 times. So you'll have done this. Bum-ba-da-dum. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And stop. So let's try the whole thing from the beginning. 1, 2, go. Dum. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And stop. Now that moment of and stop is a glorious moment. Let's listen to each other one more time. Here we go. 1, 2, go. Yum, but 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And stop. All right, now let's form a trio here. Now I would like some non-musicians. Let's have 3 volunteers who would like to be a trio, and it would be great if you were non-musicians. But if you do a little music and you think, well, all right. Volunteer trio. Don't worry, it'll be fun. It'll be a little humiliating, but yes, you got the, come on up, come on up. We got 1, we need 2 more people for a trio. Come on, there's touring potential, merchandising. Come on. Yeah, come on up, good, good, good. Why is it that the women are doing it? Don't we have any men? 1 at the end, come on up, good. You're a trio, good, right here, very good. Okay, why don't you stand here next to, let's see, put you right here. Non-player. Well, no, you're playing, here we go, good. All right, now your assignment is clap that opening together. Go. I'm not helping you. You are the collaborators. Your job, your assignment. Listen to the. Soon they're going to have a retreat. Listen. I wish you could hear. This is great. This is the research and development portion. Now, I'm not helping. First of all, face them. You can't hide. You know, they know you're here, so just face them anyway. And by the way, everything you're doing is fantastic. You guys are doing brilliant. And I want you all to comment on this process, but we're not done. So what do you have to do? Your job is to make it, you're a collaborator. There's no one here. MaRS is not facilitating this partnership. It's all of you. You got to make it good. Yes, that's very helpful. You find spitting on the hands. You know, our version is you rosin the bow, you tune for a little bit longer, you do everything to delay. You roll up your sleeves. That's great. Now, one more. Let's give them a little help. Play it for them one more time, and see if you can learn by watching. See what you learn by watching from them. All right. So now let's see. Now it'll be perfect. Now, one thing, let me give just a little help. You know, the hard thing is how do you start, right? How do you start? Give them some advice.
I give a big sniff right before. So in my head, I'm going 1, 2.
Right, and that sniff sounds just wonderful on the recordings, you know. But by the way, if you listen to me, you'll always hear this sniff. It's so ugly, but you see it always, you know, this beautiful brown. But we'll let you cheat. We'll let you count 1, 2, 3. We'll let you cheat. Go ahead. We'll remove it in the DVD in the editing room. Go ahead. Not bad. Now, the first thing you need to do is agree on basic principles. You need your vision statement. So the tempo, the basic tempo, bum-ba-da-dum-ba-da-ba, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So let's try that. I'll count off 1, 2, 3, and you try it. 1, 2, 3. So we're going dum ba da dum bum 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 bum. Let's rehearse. We'll have a little rehearsal here. 1, 2, 3. Bum ba da dum bum 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 bum. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And stop. Good. Now try. Good. That's the MaRS part where we give assistance. Go ahead.
Okay, use count.
But by the way, there was amazing improvement, right? The beginning was much, much better. Fine. You guys did fine. Your starters, excellent. Give them a hand. Excellent. Very, very good. And very, very brave. Very, very brave. Do we have one more group who's itching to try to just show how much better they are? There must be. There's one in every collaborator. Do we have any other volunteers? One, let's see, who? We must have some volunteers. One, should I just pick like in law school? Okay, you're here, come on up, good, good, good. And you've got a teacher law partner. Go ahead, yes, come on up. And let's see, who would like to join? Oh, you're a musician, come on, help them out. Yeah, help them out. But you know, by the way, what I liked was when they couldn't do it, they had a sort of a huddle, a conclave. They sort of talked about it. They didn't know what they were doing, but they were discussing it. It was good. Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, dum ba da dum, bum bum. Let's do it a little slower too. Bum ba ba bum, bum 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. And stop. So the hard part at the beginning is that let's everyone do it once to get it back in our heads. I'll do it a little slower. 1, 2, 3. Bum, 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 bum. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And stop. Okay. Dum, ba, da, da. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And stop. And Beethoven would be dying. Okay. Bum, ba, da, da. What's this? Oh, I loved it. By the way, that was great. By the way, didn't you love her? I thought that was great. But that had such commitment. You so wanted that silence, which was just great. Now, by the way, how did you guys feel in the partnership? You depended on, now, oh yeah, you depended on the one who knew. How did you feel?
We're being progressive.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Very good. Thank you both. Very, very good. Excellent, excellent. Now, just watch them do it once. And watch how effortless it is. Go ahead. Pretty good, huh? Pretty good. Very good. All right. Now, we have a harder one for you. Okay. This is a longer one to learn, but it's actually not that hard. Listen to the tune, and then we will teach it to you in 3 groups. Go ahead. Okay, now each group is not that hard to learn. So let's learn the first group. They'll play the first group, and then we'll clap the first group. Go ahead. Let's learn that. Just that much. 1, 2, ready, go. Bum, ba, ba, bum, ba, 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 ba. One more time. Ready, and bum, ba, ba, bum, ba, 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 ba. One more time. Ready, and bum, ba, ba, bum, ba, 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 ba. Now let's do that just that much with them. Just that much with them. Ready, and... Got that much? Now comes the fun part, the whack. So now there's this big accent, which is fun. Whack, ba, 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 whack, ba, 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 ba. Play the second unit. So that one's fun, and you really have to whack each one. Here we go. Ready, and. Do it with them. Ready, and. And then the ending is very, very relaxed. You've done all the energy on the whacks, and here's the ending. Let's try that softly. Ready, and. Got it? Now, we'll play the whole thing through one more time, then we'll do the whole thing one more time, and then we'll form a trio up here to perform it with all these beautiful dynamics. Loud, soft, wax, it'll be beautiful. Listen to it one more time. All right, let's try it together with them. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. By the way, that was beautiful. Your last phrase was beautiful. Do we have any volunteers who want to come up and try it? It looked so inviting from the last group, didn't it? Yes, come on up. Very good. Bravo. We have somebody else. Yes, come on up. Yes, that's right. I love the smiles. Good, good, good. It's early. We need one more. We can't make a duo. We need a trio. Who have we got? Up, here we go. We've got her. Yes, yes, yes. One more review. You listen while we all do it together. We'll all do it together with playing and audience. So here's your review. Here we go. Ready, and. Isn't that beautiful at the end? Isn't it fun? Okay, good. Do it. Your group. It's all yours. How do you start? Discuss. Good. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Now, let's say you wanted to improve. How would you improve? Okay, how are you going to work on it? You're a collaborative team. How are you going to do it?
See when someone else is strong, follow them. When you're stronger, let the other people follow. I don't know.
Well, by the way, do you see a leader in this group? Who's leading? Yeah, the one in the middle. She's the leading. But is that okay? Yes. I mean, in other words, it's not bad to have someone who has strengths and to work with those strengths. That's not bad at all. So fix it up. All eyes are on you now. Okay. Oh, you want a review? Okay, let's do a review with the audience one more time. 1, 2, ready, go. Now, I've got to get today. I mean, it's so exciting to just go ba, 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 ba. The great news, ba, 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 ba. I mean, what a fantastic idea. Here we go, one more time. Ready, and. Soft. Fade to nothing. And let that last note just evaporate into the ether. Great. And I'm sure you'll do it just like that. Go ahead. Okay, now, very good, very good. Now, first of all, what I also liked was when he got lost, first he kept smiling. I mean, that is very important in a collaboration. You know, when you, I mean, I say this actually seriously. When you get to the moments where it doesn't work, your attitude towards those moments when it just isn't working is very important. And not only did you smile, but you sort of kept going. Most people, when they get to a difficulty, completely give up. They exit from the collaboration and they stop. But you sort of kept going and you kept contributing, and even though you were doing only every fourth one right, you were part of the group. No, but that's a very important thing because most people drop out the moment that they actually can't do it. One more time and I think you'll have it. This is very productive collaboration. The all shucks thing. It was very good until the end. Now, you know what else? You know what else they did spectacularly well? They started together with no upbeat. They all just looked at each other and did that first note together. I mean, normally when we start, we give an extra beat. The way you do it is if your beat is bum, ba, ba, bum, normally you go like the sniff thing. Or you do some version, if you're the conductor of an upbeat, and 1. But they just looked at each other and went. Now that takes real focus. Now let's try that as an entire group. If we're gonna say a note together and I'm gonna give you no upbeat whatsoever. Ready? I mean, that takes real focus and attention. Try it again. I didn't do anything. One more time. Not bad. Now, see how much easier it is if I give an upbeat. Ready? Then it's effortless. So try giving an upbeat. Go out and bum. Do it like and bum, ba, ba, bum. So wham ba ba dum, so dum ba ba beam ba ba be da da da, whack da 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 dum, whack da 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 dum, whack da 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 da, then da 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 da. Last time through, it's going to be perfect. Deutsche Grammophon, here we come. Go ahead. Get your CDs, cameras ready. Keep going. Yes. All right, bravo to them. Excellent job, excellent job. Very, very good. And now, just to make them feel really badly, would you play it for them once? But watch the collaboration. Now watch the loud. Watch the fade. Now, by the way, how are they determining how loud to play the whack, and how are they determining how soft to play the ending? Who's deciding? Is anyone deciding? How are they deciding? Now, did you decide ahead of time how soft the soft was and how loud the whack was?
Well, you can never completely decide because every acoustic is different.
Right. But at that moment...
We had no time, as you saw, to actually rehearse in this space with the piano.
Right.
So it's a lot about listening.
But it's about listening. Each one is listening to what they're doing, and they're continually adjusting. And that's really important. You know, whatever you think a team is about, at a certain moment things happen, and you have to actually react at that moment of collaboration. You know, one of the things that's really interesting, and I think this really has a big impact on how you do collaborations. When I was a young conductor, I used to think that what I was supposed to do was rehearse the orchestra and then do in performance what I rehearsed. Later, what I learned is you rehearse to create a possibility or a set of possibilities, and then at the moment you open yourself up to whatever emerges. And in fact, some of the most magical moments are the ones that you never had any idea would ever occur. By the way, that's one of the great things about live performance. When you hear it, in fact, I still remember one of my first big conducting dates. It was the National Symphony Orchestra. It was really early. We were doing Mozart's Sinfonia Concertante, one of the most beautiful pieces in the world, and I was young, so I thought you shouldn't be very, schmaltzy. So we were going to come into this final cadence. We were just going to go 1 and 2 and just a little lift and resolve. And we all rehearsed going 1 and 2 and 3 and bump. But the soloists were the two lead players from the Guarneri Quartet. They were playing so beautifully. The hall was so exquisite. The orchestra sounded so fantastic. And though we had never rehearsed it, we got to that when we went 1 and 2 and 3, total pause, final chord. And everyone was on the edge of their seat because no one had prepared. So suddenly everyone had to listen for just what that moment offered. And I think that moment where you let go of me or what we thought it was going to be and you open yourself up to the possibility is what is the magic of these collaborations. Now, I just have one more for you, but this is a really important one because this one, everyone has a different part. And this is really what a trio is about. In all of the other ones, you were all clapping things that were basically the same for everybody. But I want to give you one example where there are truly 3 independent parts and have a trio come up here and become 3 independent parts who really have to listen to each other. So here's the example. We'll learn it together part by part. All right, now let's divide the room into the trio. Let's see. You guys can be the piano, okay? You guys can be the violin, and you can be the cello, okay? All right. If there's somebody who's just dying in the cello section to have been a piano all their life, feel free to move. There are no place cards here. All right, now, let's learn the piano part first because this is actually the thing that everybody has to listen to, okay? Listen to this piano part. You're going to hold everything together. You are the core of the collaboration. All you do is wada, 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 and we're going to do it on our legs like this, wada, bada, bada, and there are 7 measures of them and a stop. So let's do it with him. You're the pianos, right? Okay, good. So you can see his fingers. Here we go. 1, 2, go. Play beautifully. Too much pedal. And so it stops after 7 full bars, we stop together. You always have to stop together. One more time. 1, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and stop. Perfect, you got the piano. By the way, everyone on this side of the room, like the greatest orchestra, is going to have to listen to that because that's actually what's going to keep you together. All right, now let's learn the melody line. Who's the violins? That's you, right? Okay, listen to the melody. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, long, and stop. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, long, and stop. So your part is clapped very elegantly, just like her. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, long, and stop. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, long, and stop. Let's try it with her. Here we go. I'll give you 1, 2. 1, 2. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, long, and stop. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, long, and stop. And really elegant long, then do sort of a sway thing, you know, a long, and then a up. Feel free, this is your exhibitionistic moment. Very rarely do you get to go long and stop, at least in a public space. So let's do that one more time with them. One, here we go, I'll give you 1, 2. 1, 2, and 1. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, long, and stop. Beautiful, very nice sound. Now the cello part you're gonna have to do on your arm, because these are long notes, and you're gonna have to do down bows and up bows on your arm. And I really wanna see sustain. Play the cello part first. And get that high note right. But it's the same rhythm in both phrases, right? Let's try it. Here we go. 1, 2 with him. Get the whole arm. Short, long. Then the long note. Got it? You got your part? Do you need it one more time? One more time. That first long note, move your arm slow. I want to see the whole 1, 2, 3, long. Short. Here we go. One more time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Like wax on, wax off. Good. Now we're going to put it together. Now here's the danger. They are actually the ones who keep you together. You always have to listen to the smallest value. There's someone who keeps the organization and collaboration humming, and it's their wada, 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 because you're just going 1, 2, 3. How do you know how long that is? By listening to them. So what I want to make sure is you all listen to each other. So let's try it as a group, first with them playing along with you so you know your parts, and then we're going to try it without them and see if you can stay together. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. How did you do? Okay? Now, were you doing anything other than listening to your part? You know, that's another very important thing about collaboration and why craft comes in. It's very hard often to do anything more than your own part. It takes enormous competence to be able to actually listen to what other people in the team are doing. Okay, now, think you can try it on your own? Let's try it. So now you guys, make sure your legs are a little loud because they've got to hear them all across this room and it's not a great acoustic and you, like them, have to adjust to the acoustic, okay? Just do a little of your wada wada and you tell me if you can hear them. Here we go, 1, 2, legs. Now, if you guys are not going to be together, they have no hope whatsoever. You've got to agree on your wada wadas. Now, here's a key thing. How do you get the wada wadas right? Now, when you're doing it, tell me honestly, are you listening to the people around you? Do the wada wadas and decide that you don't know what the tempo is, but you're going to listen to everyone and everyone will get it together. Let me hear the wada wadas, pianos, just by yourselves. 1, 2, go. Listen to each other. Listen. Listen. Now, was that fantastic or what? That was fantastic. Now, just because you listened, right, you suddenly became a we as opposed to a me. All right, now do that and see if we can get the melody with you guys, okay? So the start will be 1, 2, bomb, da, da, right? So the violin comes in first, right? Listen to it one more time. Listen. 1, 2. Then the wadas come in. Got it? Clear how that works? So you guys have to, and there's a beautiful moment where you guys are doing the bump, the clap, you guys take it from them. So if we do it right, there should be a 1, 2, clap, leg, 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 leg. And that's a beautiful pass. So as you do it, transfer it to them, you should really hear them. You can't just go 1, 2, wada, wada. You have to go 1, 2, I love you, wada, wada. I mean, be the upbeat, as they say, okay? So here we go. I'll give a 1, 2. 1, 2. Not bad at all. That you were really listening hard to each other, weren't you? Okay, now let's add in the cello part as well, okay? I'll give you a whole bar for free. I'll give you a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then they start, then you come in. You know where you come in? No, okay, so what you're gonna hear is you come in at the same time as the wada wadas. So it's boy, what would my teacher say now? Okay, so it'll be a 1, 2, and that's where you come with your long note. Okay, but again, you should feel there's this beautiful moment of ensemble where the and leads to both this and you. So feel your thing generate this ripple of and, but also and you all have to listen to that upbeat to be together. You with me? Yes? Here we go. I'll give you 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, go. Not bad. How did it feel? You did really well. Now, did you feel like you suddenly became a group? You know, the real thrill, and I will tell you this, and this is the same thing at an orchestra here, there is a moment when you get, you know, we all think we want to be about me, but there's nothing more thrilling than becoming a we. You know, there's that moment where you cease to be you, and that's what's so great about being in a chamber ensemble or in an orchestra. You know, the whole reason that I got into being conductor, when I was an undergraduate at Yale, the very first day, I'd played violin all my life and played in bad orchestras. And the very first day, we were playing Petrushka, and I'd never played any modern music before. I'd never seen anything with these fancy time signatures. And I went to this first rehearsal of the Yale Symphony. I was an undergraduate violinist, and I was completely lost for almost the entire piece. There were all these changing meters. I kept getting lost, very frustrated. Then we got to this Russian dance, and all of a sudden it got into this groove. And all I had to play was cha, cha, cha. And it was like, I was so happy I could finally play. But then this melody came in, and there was that moment where the whole orchestra became the groove. And like 70 people were cha, cha, wah, wah. And it was just the most thrilling. Why do people go to football games? The only reason is to become part of a we. It's much better seeing at home. I mean, you go to a Giants game in New York where I happen to live. I mean, you can see absolutely nothing. It's freezing. All there are is television timeouts. Anyway, the only reason you do it is that thrilling moment when all of a sudden there's 1 second left. The field goes up. All of a sudden you are part of this enormous we of 70,000 people. The feeling of becoming a we, that is what really collaboration offers the magic of. You just actually had a moment of that. Now, I just want to say one little final thing in summary, and then I want to finish by doing a collaborative thing with you and them, and we'll end this way. I've talked a lot about listening here, you know, at the heart of it, because that is, in the end, what makes this. But there's a particular kind of listening that I believe is at the heart of collaboration. I don't know if any of you ever had any experience doing improv of any kind, or improv comedy or anything. You know, the first rule of improvisatory comedy is what they call yes and listening. And the idea of yes and is that if you're an improviser and someone's doing a scene with you, whatever they offer you as their first line or their first prop, you must say yes to what they do. So for example, if you were to say to me, it's cold out, I can't say, no it isn't. The scene ends, and that's called blocking. Whatever it is, you have to say yes to. It's cold out, and you could say, you don't think this is cold. It's nothing, because, and then the story continues. But you must say yes to whatever your colleague offers, and then build on that. I believe that that is the key to all great chamber ensembles, to great orchestras, and every collaboration. Now, this is important. When someone offers an idea, that does not mean you have to take it, but it means that no matter what someone offers, for at least 5 seconds, you must say yes to that idea, and you must seriously take it without agenda. You must put aside what you think, what you want, what your idea is, and truly actually hear that idea. When they rehearse, if somebody comes up with a tempo idea or a bowing idea, they may eventually reject it, but they must actually try it on. My first greatest suggestion, which has actually profited me for all collaborations, is to give up the idea of when someone makes a suggestion of agreeing or disagreeing. Replace agreeing or disagreeing with an idea with trying it on. Just try the idea on, but try it on with complete sincerity, like this absolutely might be it. It may take only 4 seconds. When your daughter says, yes, I want to go downtown to Toronto, 4 a.m. for this great rave, and she's 13 years old, for at least 1 second, try it on. Really forget disagree. I mean, it is so important to actually accept. People immediately feel whether they've actually been heard. And one of the keys to a collaboration is not only the actual result, but the environment in which you've created it. If you look up in the dictionary, compromise, and people always talk about the essential compromise that you need to have to make collaborations work. Compromise is defined, and I really find this interesting, as accepted but not wanted. Something that's accepted but not wanted. I do not believe any collaboration will ever work on accepted, not wanted. I do not believe any music can be made on accepted, not wanted. But what you actually can do is decide, we all think that what's important is to have what we want, but what's really important is to want what we have. So in other words, whatever the group comes to, you must eventually get to say, this is what I want. If you accept that there's a negativity and the collaboration will never work. It might not be your idea, but you have to move from accepted to wanted. And I really believe that kind of listening, that kind of yes and listening, saying yes for at least a moment to whatever comes out. There's a trumpet player doing this concerto with me, and we have vast disagreements over what the tempo is. And the first, I shouldn't be saying this in public, but we are doing this Haydn trumpet concerto. When he first came into the rehearsal and he said, I do this at 126. That's a metronome mark. Not like, let's try it out, let's play it together, let's see what you think. I do it at 126. And of course, immediately, that's like blocking in a yes and way. There's no room for any negotiation. So I said, well, what about a little faster than 126? I do it at 126. But then I thought, okay, what I have to do is I have to try this on. This is one of my principles. I'm going to try it. So I went to the first performance, and I gave it my best to make this incredibly plodding tempo of 126 work. And I really tried hard. But then when I went to him afterwards, and I said, I can't make it happen. It just doesn't work for me. It actually was okay because he felt that I had made an attempt to make it work, and now it's 128, and we're getting there. And each one is a little faster than the preceding one. But I think it's really important to listen from yes and try it on. And now for the final piece of our little puzzle, because in the end, really, no matter how big the organization is, no one is leading, and no one is following, and everyone is leading, and everyone is following. And just my final point, and then we'll do our final exercise, is that it's important to give up the idea that you walked into the room with when you have a collaboration. You have to walk in, as they say, with an empty teacup, willing to come up with the moment that none of us anticipated in that thing I was conducting, willing to discover that it might not be what you planned. I have a wonderful final quote, and it says, it's from Joseph Campbell on mythology, and he says, we must be willing to get rid of the life we've planned in order to have the life that's waiting for us. So that's, I think, what is essential in collaboration. Now, for our last one, they've got a great piece they want to play, and I don't know if we'll be able to do this, but I wanted to create a groove. We've never done this, a 3-part groove that you would tap during the first part of this piece and return to at the end, and we would finish with this jubilant climax where we've all made this music together. But it's kind of tricky. So we're going to divide this into a 3-part groove. Do we have U of T musicians here by any chance? Okay, how many do we have? Okay, so you're going to be, I want you to be, let's see, we'll call this group 1. So you be standing up in the middle of this group. Why don't you stand up in the middle of group 2, which is group 2. We don't have a third one? Oh, do we have a third one? Okay, stand in the middle of this one and save them from themselves. Here we go. Okay. Because this is quite tricky. And we're going to make this groove, which is really fun. There's nothing more fun than groove. Okay. So your first groove, how fast are you playing it about? Okay, so your groove is, you can do it with me. Got it? Keep going. Don't rush. You're going to go, keep going. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You're going to go, what's your part again? Keep going. Listen to each other. Now listen, keep going. Great, I think we can try it. Great, all right, so here's what we're going to do. The piece is going to start with, I think it's great, you've got to listen to each other and don't drown them out. Okay. So it's going to start with 2 vamps of your group. So it'll start bum, 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 bum. Then we'll add ba, 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 bum, ba, ba, ba. Then it will add ba, 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 ba. Then they'll start playing. Then you're going to keep this going while they're playing, listening to them, adjusting your groove, listening to them, listening to them, listening to them, listening to them, so that you stay together. Then there will be a moment where I go like this, you'll stop dead. Then they'll play some more, and then there'll be a moment where I'll start you all over again, and we'll do the same thing. 2 of you, 2 of you, 2 of you, and then hopefully when I go like this at the end, we'll stop. You think you can do it? All right, what is the piece? Tell them what the piece you're playing.
Death of an Angel.
Death of an Angel, and I hope that isn't too accurate a description of what's about to happen. Okay. All right, so you understand it. And you guys, your job is to make it right, okay? So your entire grade at U of T is dependent on the success of your group. This is a group collaboration with you as the leader, and we take names. Okay, here we go. Is that a good tempo for you? All right, 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. Give yourselves a hand. Thank you. I often say, I know what I said. What did you hear? So, what did it do for you? What did you get out of it? Any thoughts, any questions, any comments? You guys, by the way, were fantastic. It was fun to do, wasn't it, the clapping groove thing? It's great to be part of a we. Anyone, any comments, questions, thoughts, anything you like? Yes, sure, go ahead.
Well, it's much easier by the end actually listen to other people rather than just focusing on what I was doing.
Partly because you got better at it, right? Right. And wasn't it more fun when you heard, there is a wisdom of crowds? Yes, absolutely. That's great. Anyone else? Any kind of comment or question or anything? Yeah, sure, go ahead.
It almost seems like a philosophy of life.
It almost seems like a philosophy of life. Well, I do think it is. You know, I mean, one thing I always think is everything is about everything. You know, I finished a first book and I'm writing a second one, but the third one I want to write is called It's All Music. And the truth is, it's all music. You know, I mean, it's all, everything is about everything and is about everything. You're right. It is. It's way, yeah, that's great comment. You'd be great for that board, Rob. I'm sure you're gonna fix it. We should bring them. That was great. Anyone else? Yeah, sure, go ahead. Yes. Yes. What a great comment that is. Well, what she said was, she said by the end she was getting really tired in her hands because she has a hand problem. Don't think you have it. I was getting really tired and I don't have a hand problem. That's the worst part to do that one. But she said she felt really committed for the group. And I think that is something that the trio feels as well. You know, I mean, that is just a beautiful observation. I don't need to say anything else. You're right. Being committed to a we, yes. That's the thrill of collaboration. Yes, go ahead.
Because our part was fairly busy or fairly loud, it was actually difficult to hear the other clapping parts. And I really wanted to hear the other. I knew what was happening,
right.
But I couldn't really hear it, so I felt like I was missing out on that kind of collaborative.
Yes. Yes, he said he was extremely disappointed because he wanted to know what you guys were doing. In other words, he was so busy doing this clapping part over there and you were far away that he couldn't hear it. But that's exactly, you wanted to hear. You wanted to be part of the group. In fact, that's the thing. When an orchestra goes to a bad acoustical space, or a group does, that's what's so sad about it, is you can't have the we experience because you can't actually hear each other. But you want it, you know, and that's great. Go ahead.
Well, very much in circumstances like that, what actually helps things is giving up that much more of your own part. So we often have those situations where, in fact, our part, say one of our parts is particularly busy like that, but we feel that it's just it's obliterating the others, or not that it's obliterating, but the acoustics just don't allow. So we just bring it down. You make your part of the we less and less and less, until you can really hear the others, and then you can bring it up. So, I mean, if we were to do the exercise again, it'd be interesting to try actually quiet, keep that really quiet.
And you know, one thing I've really learned as an orchestrator, which is really interesting, when you write a piece like this tap dance concerto that I wrote for the Toronto Symphony, we had 1 hour of rehearsal and then we did the world premiere. And you know, when you write a piece and you have only 1 hour rehearsal, you decide, you sort of place dynamics so that, for example, say your part is going to necessarily dominate, you might mark it at a dynamic level lower. But what often happens is, say you write a solo for a flute. At the first read through, the other orchestra is unable to do it. They're having the same difficulty as you, and they're always drowning out the flute. And the mark of a beginning orchestrator is he rushes back, and you see them changing the dynamic of the flute, when really all they need to do is realize, aha, there's a flute solo, and then everyone pulls themselves back accordingly, listening for the other part, which is, if we did a second run through, you would now know I can't hear, and you would make the adjustment. And the truth is, it's never what the composer marks on the page that makes it happen. It's the person listening who goes, aha, that's the flute solo. That's what it means to play piano or soft. It's all judged by the ear. So yes, you're exactly right. That's a really good point. So anyway, I saw some hand over here. Did I? Yes? Oh yes, go ahead. Sure, yes.
No, I was getting, not that I was bored, but I was just fantasizing and I just could see a flamenco dancer dancing.
Yes.
That would have been really...
Well, it's perfect. I mean, she said she was fantasizing during this, and I debated whether to ask the next question or not. But she said she was doing a flamenco dancer. And first of all, that's completely right. I mean, this is music that's, you know, totally appropriate for that. And, you know, that was an interesting thing.
The clapping was like the feet.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's great. Also, she said she was getting a little bored with her part. And, you know, one of the things that's really, and, you know, it's really interesting if you play sort of modern minimalist music like Steve Reich, to get into a groove where you play the same pattern over and over again. It's a whole mind state to get into loving the groove and just sort of enjoying the entire experience of being in the groove. But not everybody can do it. The more intellectual you are, the worse it is. You just have to love the experience of being part of the groove. But yes, it can be boring to play the groove. Yes, that's right. But the fantasies are fine. Yes, that's fine. Yes, anything for your group, for your IT group. Okay.
Sorry, I was just saying that just in speaking to some of the final comments that were mentioned, I find that once you give yourself the opportunity to listen to other people, it actually fuels your part. Oh, so for example, I actually sing as part of a backup team at my church. So one of the things that we do when we're communicating with the other backup singers is we look at each other and we listen to each other. And once you get that vibe going, you can create such a beautiful harmony. So just as we've done today. So once you allow yourself the chance to listen to other people's parts, or maybe even pull your part back a bit, whatever it may be, you're really giving yourself the opportunity to connect with those other parts too, to make that melody or that piece put together nicely.
Right. There's always a small me, which is the least interesting version of yourself, as opposed to the bigger we that you can become a part of. That's great. Do we have any more, one or more comments, then we'll call it a night? Yes. Oh, hold on. Sure.
I just want to make one comment that I know this evening's program has to do with chamber music and an orchestra, but also I think even though it's the same and yet slightly different, and that is people that sing, either young or whatever age, in a chamber choir or in a choir, professional or amateur, it doesn't matter. That we is... When I was younger, and I used to belong to chamber choirs all my life, from the time I was a kid till even now, we call it therapy night.
Therapy night, yeah. Well, I think also it's, it's sports teams. It's any time you're part of a group that's, working together to make something, any collaboration, where you're all on the same page trying to attain that goal, is it's the same kind of experience. Yeah, go ahead.
But I think that just as far as developing ideas collectively, I mean, I think learning to pull back with your own idea and just to let it resonate and introduce it slowly while you continue, while it continues to work with the others. And I think it all, I mean, I think that's perhaps the idea that coincides or resonates greatest with what goes on in this building, perhaps, at least from the perspective that I've seen. Having ideas, but not being the first to just toss them all out there and just sort of, slowly nudge them in, but listen. And it's, I guess, splitting that awareness and having enough. And yesterday we were at U of T, and Rob was speaking to a whole room full of students, many of which have been, are sitting around in a little studio learning to play their instrument and not really thinking so much, are scared to think about what it is that they're actually going to do with that skill once they actually graduate. And every year we bring Rob in there and he shakes them up and asks them questions. And they
get out of town.
No, I mean, there's a real awakening that occurs with that every time. In any case, I've sort of lost my point, Rob, so I'm going to pass it back to you.
This is a collaboration. We'll take it over seamlessly. Jamie, we have one final comment that will sum up the night and close everything. You and then we'll call it a night. Yes, go ahead. You've been here a long time, and you guys have been great. Go ahead.
I think there's a lot to be said about doing and not just talking. And I think in a lot of groups, a lot of collaborations, you sit around, you do a lot of talking about what should be done. Right. And at a certain point, you have to let go and you have to do. You have to actually just sort of say, okay, let's just try it and let's actually get in there and be physical with it and just commit ourselves to something now.
It's funny, when I first started going to business places, I would read these business books so I'd get the lingo down. And I would read all these Tom Peters books, and he says, what most people do is they do ready, aim, form a committee, aim, talk, aim. He says the way to do life is ready, fire, aim. And I really think that's true. You make a commitment, you say you're going to do a program at MaRS, you have absolutely no idea what you're going to do, then you show up, you ready, fire, aim, and then you say, well, what happened there? And then you start doing all the nudging afterwards. But I do think ready, fire, aim is the key. I committed to writing a tap dance concerto, having no idea even what that would even mean to write a tap dance. But then once you commit, then you sort of have to do it. So I think maybe that'll end the night. Ready, fire, aim. All right. Thank you all. Do you have anything to say finally? And thank you guys.